We're going to talk about final testing week in just a minute. But before I do, I want to beg your patience. This can take a long time. There are a lot of delays in the process that are just necessary in order to do a good job. We are very detail-oriented about this entire hiring process. And so after you've submitted your background investigation documents, and before you get contacted by your background investigator, and after you've had your background investigator interview, but before you make it to command file review, and after command file review and before you go to your final testing week, there can be a significant amount of time in between these steps. Depending on when you apply, the entire process can take between 6 and 12 months. Anything worth doing can be difficult and can take a while. If you have any questions at any time about what's going on with your file, feel free to reach out to us in the recruitment unit via email or giving us a call. But we will let you know every single time you move forward in the process. It just takes a while. So final testing week. Final testing week is after you've completed the command file review process. Once command file review is over and you've been recommended for an invitation to final testing, you're going to actually get notified. You passed. You're past command file review and you're going to be coming to the final testing, and we're going to give you a schedule that's going to have all of the appointments that you need to complete while you're in Anchorage for a 7 to 10 day period. Even out-of-state folks will come and spend no more than 10 days. Sometimes we can even fit it in a little bit less than that. We try and get you done as quickly as possible because we know that you're paying for hotel or rental car and that sort of thing. And so the schedules actually can change as the process moves forward in order to optimize that for you so you're not in town any longer than you need to be. The first step of the final testing week is the physical fitness test. You already took it, right? The initial physical fitness test you took on your own, proctored by another adult. Well, this time we're going to proctor it for you. And we're going to proctor it according to the same standards. You need to have a minimum of 25 push-ups, 27 sit-ups in 1 minute, and a 1.5 mile run in 15:12. Make sure you do really, really well on that test. The Academy standard is higher than that minimum standard. The Academy standard is 32 push-ups, 32 sit-ups, and a 1.5 mile run in 14:29. You really want to be going for the excellence in fitness standard, however. 45 push-ups, 40 sit-ups, and a 1.5 mile run in 12:42. If you can achieve the excellence in fitness test standard at the very first test that you take during the hiring process, during that final testing week, you are set up to do really, really well at the Academy, which is a very intense physical fitness academy. If you pass the physical fitness test, you move on to the oral board. If you don't pass the physical fitness test, you do not move on. And that means even if you do 1 push-up less than you needed, you do not move on to the next step. So be sure that you are ready before you come to Anchorage for the final testing. The oral board is a professional interview, so you'll dress in professional business attire. You'll come at the right time, which is 20 minutes before your oral board is actually scheduled to begin. You will be at headquarters 20 minutes before, and you'll participate in a short written sample that you need to provide. Then you will be going before a board of 3 uniformed Alaska State Troopers or Wildlife Troopers for your oral board. You need to have poise, you need to have confidence, and this is something that if you haven't done a lot of this sort of interviewing before, practice is the key to success in this area. You're going to come in, you're going to introduce yourself, you're going to have a pad of paper and a pen right in front of you. In law enforcement, we call that a clue. That's for taking notes. Some of these questions are detailed questions with multiple parts. Make sure that you use every tool available to you to have success in this. And that may mean writing a couple notes down. It can really help when you're writing notes too. If you're nervous at the beginning of an interview, writing a couple notes can kind of ease you into the environment. It can be stressful, an oral board interview. Again, practice is the way to have success here. These are behavioral-based interview questions. Behavioral-based interview questions are very different from interview questions that used to be used in employment screening like this. And behavioral-based interview questions are really important to practice because they're asking you about behaviors you've had, experiences you've had in the past, either personal or professional experiences. Generally, a behavioral-based interview question format asks you, tell me about a time, or give me an example about something. And the way to have success in that is to think about those examples and those behaviors and those challenges that you've had, that you've overcome in the past, and have those on the tip of your tongue so that you can apply those to the job that you're being asked to interview for. Take that behavior, that example, and give that example in answer to this question and relate it to the job that you're applying for. The way I like to basically encourage people to practice is past, present, future. Give us the past, give us the behavior, the example, the experience that you had, whether it was at work or in your personal life. Say what you've learned from it, what you did right, what you did wrong, what you learned from that experience, and how it applies to the job you do now and the work that you do today. And also bridge the gap and help the board understand how that means you will behave as an Alaska State Trooper or a wildlife trooper. Once you can do that past, present, future, you can kind of tell a story about how those experiences helped you do well in the past and today, and how it will affect your job as an Alaska State Trooper or a wildlife trooper. What really helps, though, is have the ability to relate it to the job. And the job of an Alaska State Trooper or a wildlife trooper is very different maybe from the job you've had before. So you need to do the best you can at learning about the job of an Alaska State Trooper or a wildlife trooper. Whether that be getting a ride-along or speaking to troopers or asking us questions in the recruitment unit. It's absolutely essential that you bridge that gap and help paint a picture for how your experiences relate to that, the job of an Alaska State Trooper. The oral board overall is a measure of your ability to communicate verbally. And as I mentioned before, communication skills are absolutely essential in this job. It's a measure of how you handle stress, because you're going to be going into a room with 3 people you never met before, and they're going to ask you questions about things that you weren't prepared for. And so the best way you can handle this is to prepare as much as you can. Get someone who cares about you and is willing to spend some time with you, and practice those behavioral-based interview questions. You can go on the internet, search for behavioral-based interview questions. You won't find the ones we use, but you'll find thought-provoking questions that you can answer, and you can practice answering these kinds of questions. Use a pad of paper and a pen and take notes and go through the whole process just like you practice for the physical fitness test. You probably practice by doing push-ups, sit-ups, and running. Well, for the oral board, you should practice as well. Practice behavioral-based interview questions, get someone to give you feedback, practice giving those answers clearly, and don't go through the oral board really, really quickly and just an effort to get out of there. We need to hear detailed, thoughtful answers from you. And that isn't something that's going to get done in 10 or 15 minutes. The typical successful applicant in the oral board process is 30 to 45 minutes in that room giving detailed answers to their questions. Sometimes that means you hear the question, you take a couple notes, you think about it for a moment, and then you answer the question thoughtfully. Then, if you forgot the second part of the question, it's okay because you wrote a couple notes, and then you go, oh, that's part 2, and then you give part 2 of the answer. Maybe that looked like, tell me about a time when such and such happened, and how did you, and explain the second part. You got to get both parts. And so taking those notes is absolutely essential to doing a good job on the oral board. If you've gotten this far, we see a lot of good things in you. We see that you have a lot of potential and you might be great as an Alaska State Trooper or a wildlife trooper. Don't cut yourself short by not preparing for this step. It's absolutely essential to prepare for the oral board. It's not the kind of skill that people practice on a regular basis in the course of their job duties or careers generally, but if you go about this deliberately, then you can have success in this step.